Hi everybody, this is Albert. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm doing a series of videos at the request of my friend Ryan, who would like to have me introduce what I have in my kitchen. And so this series will be talking about what kind of knives I use in my kitchen, and he also wanted to know how to sharpen them, or at least how I sharpen them. And so first off, this is a 4 by 8 inch Chinese cleaver made by Messermeister, and I use this knife about, I would say, 90% of the time. Um, like I've introduced this knife before, I have a choke grip usually on it. Chopping, slicing, everything very easy to use, and I recommend basically everybody should have one. Now, a lot of my viewers have asked, mostly female and mostly white, so I guess white females, who say they're deathly afraid of this knife. Is there an alternative that I can recommend? Well, there is. I recommend this knife, which is this Santoku knife, and this one is made by Victorinox, as you can see. It's got the air pocket, so if you're slicing something like potatoes or veggies, or mostly potatoes, it will release as there's air pockets. Now, one thing I like about this is it's got the Fibrox handle, which is NSF approved if you care, and it's easy to clean, textured, easy to hold, easy to grip, and it's very sanitary because it's non-porous and it's antimicrobial. Um, with it, my wife holds it like a regular knife. Again, you'll see me always with a choke grip on it, a pinch grip, as they say sometimes. And benefits of Santoku is the fact that there's a slight belly, so it's not completely flat. So when you chop, you can still rock it fairly quickly. It's kind of pointed head, so you can draw cut fairly easily, and it's very light. Now, if you take a look at all the um, knives available in the Santoku style online, you'll find that this is super cheap. I don't know how much it is, but it's something like 20 bucks. And the reason why is because it's stamped um, versus something like cold hammer forged. Now, two things. Number one, if you suck at cooking, mm, uh, probably don't want to spend $200 on a knife before you learn how to use it. Number two, it's actually equally sharp, but it doesn't hold its edge, I find, as well as something like very good hammer forged steel. But the benefit of this is from the stainless is the fact that while it doesn't hold the edge that well, it's sharp, it's easy to sharpen, and basically it'll last you a long time because it does not rust. It's I assume it's just got high nickel content in it, and so if you fear the big old Chinese cleaver, this is probably the knife I would recommend, a Victorinox NSF approved Fibrox handled Santoku. What else is in in my stable of knives is this is a Wusthof Wusthof cleaver. Now I use this mainly to debone something, and I mean deboning not as in filleting, but deboning as in cutting the bone out of a chicken or something like that. I use this mostly for chicken neck, the chicken joints are usually soft enough for me to just use my Chinese cleaver. Sometimes I use this if I bought a big old hunk of like salmon or something like that, and I want to cut through the spine. This is the go-to knife. It's really heavy. It's heavily weighted. I don't use a choke grip on it. I use it basically like a hammer, and when you're I like the fact that there's actually a hole in there, so if you have you can hang it if you want to. It's actually a very sharp knife. Like I said, I hold it like hammer, and you just gotta be careful with it. And yeah, if you ever break into my house while I'm in the kitchen, I'll either chase you with the Chinese cleaver or with this bad boy right here. It's a Wusthof cleaver. And when you're looking for a meat cleaver like this, you want heft, you want weight, you want something that you want the knife to do the cutting. You don't want to be the one exerting the force. So when I'm chopping chicken necks, splitting pork bones, um, salmon spines, this is the knife I go to. And then when we get to the subject of salmon, this is also the other knife I have. Um, it's a regular fillet knife. It's a Victorinox also. It's got the Fibrox handle, NSF approved, and this bad boy is sharp. Like, I mean, it's sharp. I mean, you know, if you sliced your finger with this, you won't draw blood. And I prefer the fillet knives. I prefer the Fibrox handle again because when you're dealing with something like a greasy fish like salmon or Chilean sea bass, the hand gets very, very oily very, very fast. And the Fibrox I find to be easy to hold onto. Again, I still have it in I have it in regular grip. I usually have my thumb on top for added strength. And this thing fillets like nobody's business. And I prefer this again over the wooden handles. And I highly recommend never getting a salmon or a fillet knife with a wooden handle simply because you just don't want fish guts in your wooden handle seeping into your wood and finding out next season that, oops, I didn't really wash it that well and my entire knife smells like what I killed last year. So with a fillet knife, you need some sort of flex on it, as you can see, but you don't want too much. And this thing, I find it to be perfectly good flex without being overly flexible that it becomes difficult to control, and this thing just slices and dices like nobody's business. So primarily this for filleting, this for boning, and this for everything else. And that's pretty much the three knives I use, and this is about 90%. I would say this is about 2%, and this is about 8%. Now the only other object I do want to, that is not a knife, that I do want to share with you is the fact that I have a pair of Wusthof scissors. And I like this pair simply because, again, you should have a good pair of kitchen shears, but this pair especially I like is because you can take it apart and it washes very easily. Again, it's made by Wusthof. It's got the, I don't think this is actually Fibrox, but it's got the hard plastic non-porous handles, and it's got a little can opener there, and it's got a if you see the notch on the outside, that's for a can opening. If you see the notch on the inside of a pair of shears, that's for deboning or breaking bones. So usually I'll stick a chicken bone in there and you push down really hard and you cut through the chicken bone. And so a good pair of shears is invaluable. You want something that's not too thin in front. You want a little bit of heft so you can cut something heavy with it. I do this. This is I use this primarily. Well, aside from cutting everything that scissors cuts, I probably the number one thing I use it for is when I spatchcock a chicken. And if you don't know what spatchcocking a chicken is, it's basically when you take a whole chicken and you cut along the side of the vertebrae and you flip the chicken open, and then you can cook the entire chicken flat. And so, you know, Ryan, if you're looking for recommendations, what to have in your knife stable, you need a good pair of shears, you need a good fillet knife, good Chinese knife, and good cleaver, and that's about it. And again, for the people who are deathly afraid of the Chinese knives, then you probably shouldn't cook. But if you want to, my other recommendation would be the Sentoku knife. And again, a bunch of brands do make the Sentoku style knives, which is easy to use for most family cooking, but I recommend one with a Fibrox handle. One other item I do have is a small, I guess, considered a fruit knife. This one's also Wusthof. I've owned this one for I think 11 or 12 years. As you can see, it's got Sears mileage on it. I use this mostly for fruit. If you know, if I'm just cutting strawberry heads off or something like that, mostly strawberry and radishes. And when I have guests over at my house who are deathly afraid of my other knives, this is the knife I recommend. So I will actually split the video up. In my next portion, I will talk about a little bit about sharpening. So I will see you in the next video.